You know what they say about the moment your life changes forever? They're wrong. It doesn't happen in slow motion. It doesn't come with dramatic music or a flash of lightning. It comes with your wife standing in your kitchen at 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, holding her phone like it's the Holy Grail, wearing that smirk that could cut glass. Derek appreciates me more than you ever did, Lana announced, her voice dripping with the kind of satisfaction usually reserved for lottery winners or people who find parking spots at the mall during Christmas. I'm Drake Torrin, by the way. 38 years old, IT consultant, and apparently the kind of husband who gets traded in for a newer model without even knowing he was on the market. I was standing there in my own kitchen, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold while I tried to figure out why our joint account was showing some interesting charges from high-end restaurants I'd never been to. Derek? I asked, though I already knew. Derek Hanley, her boss at Premium Properties, the kind of guy who wore suits that cost more than my car and had teeth so white they probably came with their own solar panel. Lana's smirk widened. She was enjoying this. Actually enjoying it. We're going to New Orleans for the weekend. Don't wait up. And just like that, she was gone. Not just out the door gone, but really gone. The kind of gone that comes with suitcases and the sound of Derek's BMW purring in my driveway like a satisfied cat. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, listening to the silence that follows a bomb explosion. Then I did what any rational man would do. I laughed. Not the happy kind of laugh, mind you, but the kind that comes when you realize you've been playing chess while everyone else was playing poker. My phone buzzed, a text from Jessa, Lana's older sister and the only member of that family with functioning brain cells. Heard she left with the boss man. You okay? I typed back, never better. Want to help me change some locks? 20 minutes later, Jessa was at my door with a toolbox and a bottle of wine. Jessa Maller was everything Lana wasn't. Practical, loyal, and blessed with the kind of sharp tongue that could fillet a fish at 50 paces. She always was an idiot, Jessa said, examining the front door lock like a surgeon planning an operation. But this is impressive, even for her. You think? I was already on my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. Amazing how quickly you can transfer funds when you're the primary account holder. Oh, I know. Leaving with her boss, posting it on social media, she's basically handed you a divorce lawyer's dream case. I paused my typing to look at Jessa. She posted it? Jessa held up her phone. There was Lana, champagne glass raised, Derek's arm around her waist, both of them grinning like they'd just invented happiness. The caption read, "Finally with someone who knows my worth. Yurt, New Orleans. Golden now, new beginnings, living my best life." Champagne tastes, boxed wine brains, I muttered. That's being generous to boxed wine, Jessa replied, attacking the lock with professional efficiency. You know what this means, right? I knew exactly what it meant. Marital abandonment. Adultery. And thanks to her social media addiction, proof of both that would hold up in any court in Texas. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from Lana, sent from what I assumed was Derek's phone since hers was probably too busy taking selfies. Drake, don't bother trying to contact me. This is what I want. Derek and I are perfect together. You'll be hearing from my lawyer soon. Try not to be too pathetic about this. L. I showed it to Jessa, who read it twice before shaking her head. She really doesn't understand how any of this works, does she? Apparently not. I was already composing my reply. Should I tell her she can't spell alimony, or let her figure it out when she tries to file for it? Let her figure it out. More fun that way. I hit send on my response. Lana, congratulations on your new relationship. I've taken the liberty of securing our assets and filing for marital abandonment. Enjoy New Orleans. You might want to make it last. Drake, P.S. You sure you can spell alimony? Jessa finished with the locks and poured herself a glass of wine. So, what's the plan? I looked around my house now really, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Freedom. Pure, undiluted freedom, with just a hint of righteous anger for flavor. The plan? I'm going to let her hang herself with her own rope. She's already tied the noose. And Derek? I smiled, and for the first time in months, it felt genuine. Derek's about to learn that some upgrades come with unexpected costs. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The thing about revenge is that it's like good barbecue. It takes time, patience, and the right kind of heat. Too fast and you burn everything. Too slow and nobody cares anymore. But get it just right, and people will be talking about it for years. I spent Wednesday morning doing what I do best, gathering information, Amazing what you can find when you know where to look and have legitimate access to accounts that someone forgot to change the passwords on. Lana's work email, for instance, still synced to the tablet she'd left behind in her rush to start her new life. 47 messages between her and Derek over the past month, each one more incriminating than the last. My personal favorite was from 2 weeks ago. Can't wait to get away from D. He's so boring. You make me feel alive again. Boring. 38 years old and apparently boring was my defining characteristic. I forwarded the entire email chain to myself, then did something that would have made my old IT security professor proud. I documented everything. Screenshots, timestamps, metadata. If this was going to court, I wanted enough evidence to bury them both. My phone rang around 10. Unknown number with a New Orleans area code. Drake? Lana's voice, but different, shaky. We need to talk. Do we? Because your email yesterday seemed pretty final. I was emotional. Derek thinks we should discuss this like adults. Derek thinks. Already she was talking like half of a couple, like his thoughts were her thoughts. It would have been sad if it wasn't so predictable. Put him on, I said. There was a pause, some muffled conversation, then Derek's voice came through the phone, smooth as aged whiskey and twice as fake. Drake, buddy, I think we got off on the wrong foot here. Buddy. This man was sleeping with my wife and calling me buddy. Did we? Which foot was that, Derek? The one where you started an affair with my wife, or the one where you helped her abandon her marriage? Look, these things happen. Adults move on. No reason we can't handle this civilly. I almost laughed. Civilly. Right. Tell me, Derek, does your company's HR department know you're sleeping with your employees? The line went quiet. When Derek spoke again, the smooth tone had developed some rough edges. You don't want to go down that road. Don't I? Because I'm looking at 47 emails that suggest your company might be interested in your management style. You're bluffing. Am I? Lana still has her work email synced to the tablet she left behind. Amazing what people forget when they're thinking with their emotions. I could hear Lana in the background, her voice rising in panic. Derek was shushing her, but it wasn't working. What do you want? Derek asked. Nothing from you, but I thought you should know. I forwarded those emails to Premium Properties' HR department this morning. Figured they'd want to know about their star salesman's extracurricular activities. The line went quiet again. Then Derek's voice came back, all pretense of friendliness gone. You have no idea what you're messing with. Enlighten me. I've got friends, Drake. People who can make your life very difficult. Now I did laugh. Derek, I'm an IT consultant. I spend my days dealing with people who think turning it off and on again is advanced technical knowledge. Your threats don't exactly keep me up at night. I hung up and immediately called Premium Properties. Hi, this is Drake Torrin. I sent some emails to your HR department this morning regarding Derek Hanley and Lana Torrin. I wanted to make sure they arrived safely. The receptionist put me on hold, then came back with a voice that had gone from friendly to professional. Mr. Torrin, I can confirm that your correspondence was received and is being reviewed by the appropriate parties. Thank you. I appreciate your professionalism. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time it was my boss, Jim Patterson, and he didn't sound happy. Drake, I just got a very interesting call from someone claiming you've been harassing their employees. Let me guess, Derek Hanley? You know him? He's the man my wife left me for, and he's about to learn that actions have consequences. Jim was quiet for a moment. Jim was good people, the kind of boss who actually cared about his employees and didn't just say he did in company meetings. You want to tell me what's going on? I told him everything, the affair, the abandonment, the threats. When I finished, Jim was quiet for another long moment. You got proof of all this? Enough to wallpaper my house with. Good, because if this Derek character calls back, I'm going to have some very specific things to say about people who threaten my employees. That afternoon, Jessa showed up with takeout and news. Lana's been calling around, she said, settling into my kitchen chair like she belonged there. Talking to anyone who'll listen about what a terrible husband you were. And most people are asking why, if you were so terrible, she didn't just divorce you instead of running off with her boss. Jessa had brought Chinese food, and we ate while she filled me in on the neighborhood gossip network. Apparently Lana's dramatic exit had not gone unnoticed. Mrs. Henderson saw the whole thing, Jessa said, twirling lo mein around her fork. Derek's car in the driveway, Lana loading suitcases, the whole production. She's been telling everyone at the grocery store. Mrs. Henderson was our next-door neighbor and the unofficial neighborhood news service. If she was talking, everyone within a 5-mile radius would know by tomorrow. What's the general consensus? That Lana's lost her mind and you're better off without her. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I showed it to Jessa, who rolled her eyes. Derek. Probably. You worried? I thought about it for a moment, then shook my head. Jessa, I spent 10 years married to your sister. After that, Derek Hanley is like a gentle spring breeze. She laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from knowing someone well enough to appreciate their pain. So what's next? I looked at my laptop, where I'd been monitoring Lana's social media accounts. The posts from New Orleans had stopped around noon, right about the time HR would have been calling Derek into their office. Now we wait and see how deep a hole they can dig for themselves. And if they try to climb out? I smiled and reached for my phone. Time to make a few more calls. Then we hand them bigger shovels. Friday morning brought the kind of silence that comes after a storm. No angry phone calls, no threatening texts, no social media updates from the lovebirds in New Orleans. It was almost disappointing. I was halfway through my morning coffee when Jessa called. Have you seen Lana's Facebook lately? She blocked me yesterday. What's she saying now? That's just it. She's not saying anything. Last post was Wednesday night. Some blurry photo of Bourbon Street with a caption about living authentically. Interesting. Lana's social media silence was like a dog not barking, noteworthy precisely because it was so unusual. Maybe they're just busy, I said, though I didn't believe it. Or maybe Derek's in damage control mode after HR called him in. I'd been wondering about that myself. Premium Properties was a big company, the kind that took harassment claims seriously, especially when they came with 47 pieces of documented evidence. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Premium Properties. Mr. Torrin, this is Janet Walsh from Human Resources. Could you come in this afternoon to discuss the materials you sent us? Of course. Is there a problem? No problem. We just want to make sure we have all the facts. I arrived at Premium Properties at 2 p.m. sharp, wearing my best suit and carrying a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. Janet Walsh turned out to be a woman in her 50s with the kind of no-nonsense demeanor that suggested she'd seen every workplace drama imaginable and wasn't impressed by any of them. Mr. Torrin, thank you for coming in. I want to assure you that we take these matters very seriously. She led me to a conference room where another woman was waiting, Lisa Chen, the company's legal counsel. We've reviewed the materials you provided, Lisa said, getting straight to business. They're quite comprehensive? I'm thorough. Yes, you are. Can you tell us how you obtained these emails? I explained about the tablet, the synced account, the legitimate access I'd had as Lana's husband. Both women took notes. Mr. Hanley has been placed on administrative leave pending our investigation, Janet said. We wanted to let you know in case there are any repercussions. What kind of repercussions? Angry phone calls, attempts at intimidation. We've seen it before. Lisa leaned forward. We also wanted to ask if you'd be willing to provide a formal statement about the timeline of events. I spent the next hour walking them through everything. The suspicious charges, the confrontation, the abandonment, the emails. When I finished, both women looked satisfied. One more thing, Janet said as we wrapped up. Mrs. Torrin has also been placed on administrative leave, company policy when there's an investigation involving 2 employees. I drove home feeling like I just won the first round of a boxing match I hadn't even known I was fighting. My phone was buzzing when I pulled into my driveway. Jessa, you need to see this, she said without preamble. What now? Lana's back. I looked around my empty driveway, then at my house with its newly changed locks. Back where? New Orleans, but not with Derek. She's alone, and she's posting again. I pulled up Lana's Facebook page on my phone. She'd unblocked me, and her latest post was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive desperation. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest. Learning to stand on my own again. Betrayed. Stay strong. New chapter. The post had 3 likes and 1 comment from her mother asking if she was okay. She's really something, I said. It gets better. Check her Instagram. The Instagram post was a photo of Lana sitting alone at what looked like a hotel bar, a glass of wine in hand, expression carefully crafted to suggest wounded nobility. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Lessons learned, Norajao, moving, forward, grateful. Grateful, I said out loud. Right? Grateful for what? The opportunity to blow up her own life? My doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see a delivery truck. Jess, I'll call you back. The delivery was a certified letter from a law firm in New Orleans. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message that made me laugh out loud. Mr. Torrin, Your wife has retained our services regarding her marital situation. We advise you to cease all harassment and intimidation immediately. Any further contact should go through this office. Boudreaux and Associates. I called the number on the letterhead. Boudreaux and Associates. How may I help you? This is Drake Torrin. I received a letter from your office today regarding my wife. One moment, please. A man's voice came on the line. Mr. Torrin, this is Paul Boudreaux. I understand you received our letter. I did. I'm calling to clarify something. What harassment and intimidation are you referring to? There was a pause. According to our client, you've been making threats and attempting to damage her reputation. Mr. Boudreaux, my wife abandoned our marriage to have an affair with her boss. I documented that affair and reported it to their company's HR department. If that constitutes harassment, then I suppose I'm guilty as charged. Another pause, longer this time. You have documentation? 47 emails, social media posts, witness statements, and financial records showing unexplained charges to restaurants and hotels I never visited. I see. Mr. Boudreaux, can I ask you something? Did your client mention that she's currently unemployed because she's under investigation for conducting an affair with her supervisor? No, she didn't mention that. Did she mention that she posted photos of herself with her lover on social media while announcing she was leaving her husband? No. Then perhaps you might want to have another conversation with your client about the facts of her case. I hung up and immediately called my own lawyer, Mike Stevens, a guy I'd known since college who specialized in family law. Mike, it's Drake. I think I'm about to need your services. Divorce? Among other things. How fast can you file for abandonment and adultery? How fast can you get to my office? 2 hours later, I was walking out of Mike's office with a file folder of my own and a court date 3 weeks away. My phone rang as I got to my car. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Drake? Lana's voice, small and shaky. Can we talk? Through your lawyer, remember? I fired him. Why? He said I didn't have a case. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Lana, what did you think was going to happen? I thought you'd fight for me. The words hung in the air between us like smoke from a house fire. Fight for you? You left me for another man, posted it on social media, and then had a lawyer threaten me. What exactly was I supposed to fight for? She started crying then, the kind of tears that come when reality finally breaks through delusion. Derek left me here. He said it was too complicated, that he needed space to think. And I don't have anywhere to go. I looked at my house with its changed locks and empty driveway and felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, not anger, but a kind of tired sadness for the woman who'd once been my wife. Lana, you made your choice. Now you get to live with it. I hung up and drove home, where Jessa was waiting on my porch with a bottle of wine and a grin that could have lit up the neighborhood. So, she said, how'd it go with the lawyer? Good, really good. And Lana? I thought about the phone call, about the tears and the desperation and the slow realization that actions have consequences. Lana's learning that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Sometimes it's just different grass. Sometimes it's not grass at all. Monday morning brought news that made my coffee taste like victory. Jessa called while I was getting ready for work, practically vibrating with excitement. Drake, you're not going to believe this. Try me. Lana's back in Houston. She's staying at that extended stay hotel on Westheimer, and apparently she's been calling everyone she knows looking for a job. I paused in the middle of knotting my tie. Already? Gets better. Word is that Derek got fired. Not just suspended, fired. And there's talk about some kind of financial investigation. Now that was interesting. I'd expected the affair to cost Derek his job, but a financial investigation suggested something bigger. What kind of financial investigation? Nobody knows for sure, but the rumor is that he was skimming commission somehow, using fake clients or inflating sales numbers. I finished my tie and grabbed my keys. Jessa, you're better than CNN. I try. Oh, and Drake, you might want to check your email. I checked it in my car before heading to work. 3 messages from Lana, each one more desperate than the last. The first, sent at 2 a.m. Drake, I know you're angry, but we need to talk. I made mistakes, but we can work through this. The second, sent at 4 a.m. I'm sorry about the lawyer. That was Derek's idea. I never wanted to hurt you. The third, sent at 6 a.m. Please call me. I don't have anyone else. I deleted all 3 and drove to work, where my day got even more interesting. Jim Patterson was waiting by my desk with a cup of coffee and a grin that suggested good news. "Drake, remember that Derek character who called here threatening you?" "Hard to forget." "Well, he called back Friday afternoon. Apparently he wanted to clarify his earlier statements. And I told him that if he ever contacted anyone at this company again, I'd be forwarding recordings of his calls to his employer. Funny thing is, he seemed to think he still had an employer." Jim's grin widened. Turns out he was already packing his office when he made that second call. Security escorted him out an hour later. The morning flew by in a blur of routine IT tasks and increasingly frantic emails from Lana. By lunch, she'd sent 6 more messages, each one a masterpiece of escalating desperation. "Drake, I know I hurt you, but Derek hurt me too. We're both victims here. I never meant for any of this to happen. I was confused and made bad choices. Can we at least meet for coffee? I'll explain everything." I was deleting the latest batch when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Derek's number. "Well, well," I said, answering on the 3rd ring. "If it isn't the former star salesman. We need to talk." Derek's voice had lost all its smooth confidence. He sounded like a man standing in the ruins of his own life. "Do we? Because last time we talked, you were threatening me." I was under stress. Look, this whole situation has gotten out of hand." "Has it? From where I'm sitting, it seems to be going exactly as it should. You ruined my career. Do you understand that? I'm unemployed because of you." I leaned back in my office chair and smiled. "Derek, you ruined your own career the moment you decided to sleep with your employee. I just documented it." "It wasn't like that." "What was it like? Because 47 emails suggest it was exactly like that." The line went quiet for a moment, then Derek's voice came back, harder now. "You think you're so smart. You think you've won something here. Haven't I? Lana's going to come crawling back to you. You know that, right? And when she does, you'll take her back because you're weak. You'll forgive her because you don't have the backbone to stay angry." I felt something shift inside me, like a gear clicking into place. "Derek, let me tell you something about backbone. It takes backbone to build a marriage over 10 years. It takes backbone to work every day at a job that pays the bills instead of chasing fantasies. And it takes backbone to walk away from someone who throws all that away for a smooth-talking fraud who can't even keep his own job. I'm not finished. You want to know what takes real backbone? Watching someone you loved destroy themselves and not lifting a finger to stop them. Lana made her choice. Now she gets to live with it, and so do you." I hung up and immediately called Mike Stevens. "Mike, it's Drake. I need to ask you something. If someone were to, hypothetically, contact my wife's former lover and suggest he might want to leave town, would that be legal?" "Hypothetically? As long as you're not threatening violence or property damage, suggesting someone relocate is just friendly advice." "Good to know." That evening, I drove to Derek's apartment complex. His BMW was in the parking lot, looking significantly less impressive with a dent in the passenger door and what appeared to be coffee stains on the windshield. I didn't get out of my car. I just sat there for a few minutes, watching his apartment window, then pulled out my phone and sent him a text. "Derek, saw your car in the parking lot. Nice dent. Houston's a small town for unemployed real estate fraudsters. Might want to consider a change of scenery. Drake." My phone buzzed immediately with his reply. "Go to heck." I drove home, where Jessa was waiting with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. "You look pleased with yourself," she said, settling into what had become her usual spot at my kitchen table. "It's been a good day. Derek call you?" "Twice. The second time was more interesting than the first." I filled her in on the conversation while we ate. When I finished, Jessa was shaking her head. "He's right about one thing, you know." "What's that?" "Lana's going to come crawling back, probably sooner than later." I'd been thinking the same thing. The emails were getting more desperate by the hour, and according to Jessa's intelligence network, Lana was running out of options fast. "What do you think I should do when she does?" Jessa considered this while twirling lo mein around her fork. "That depends. Do you want her back?" It was a fair question, and one I'd been avoiding thinking about too hard. Did I want her back? The woman who'd stood in my kitchen a week ago and announced she was leaving me for her boss? "No," I said, and realized I meant it. "I don't." "Then don't take her back." "It's not that simple. We were married for 10 years. Drake, she cheated on you, left you, tried to have a lawyer threaten you, and posted it all on social media for the world to see. How much simpler does it need to be?" My phone buzzed with another email from Lana. This one was longer than the others, a full paragraph of apologies and explanations and promises to make things right. I deleted it without reading it all the way through. "You're right," I said. Of course I'm right. I'm always right. It's one of my most annoying qualities. We finished dinner and were settling in to watch a movie when my doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see a familiar figure standing on my porch. Lana. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of her usual carefully coordinated outfits. "She's here," I said to Jessa. Jessa looked through the window and sighed. "You want me to leave?" I thought about it for a moment, then shook my head. "No, stay. I might need a witness." I opened the door but didn't invite Lana in. "Hello, Drake." "Lana." We stood there for a moment, looking at each other across the threshold of what used to be our shared life. "Can we talk?" "We're talking. I mean, really talk. Inside." I glanced back at Jessa, who was watching from the kitchen doorway with the expression of someone settling in for an entertaining show. "I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just for a few minutes." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let her in. She walked into the living room like she was visiting a museum, looking around at the space that had been hers just a week ago. "The house looks good," she said. "Thanks." "You changed the locks." "I did." She turned to face me, and I could see she'd been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy, and her makeup was smudged. "Drake, I made a terrible mistake." "Yes, you did. I want to come home." And there it was. The moment Derek had predicted, the moment Jessa had warned me about. Lana, standing in my living room, asking to come home. "This is your home," I said quietly. "You know what I mean." I looked at her, really looked at her, and tried to remember what I'd seen in her all those years ago. The spark, the laughter, the woman I'd fallen in love with and married and built a life with. She was still there, somewhere under the desperation and the bad decisions. But she was buried under so much wreckage that I wasn't sure either of us had the strength to dig her out. "Lana, what happened to Derek?" Her face crumpled. He said it was too complicated, that he needed to focus on his career situation. He gave me $500 and put me on a bus back to Houston. "And now you want to come home?" "I don't have anywhere else to go." I nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're not here because you love me or because you realized you made a mistake. You're here because Derek dumped you and you're out of options." "That's not." "It is, though. If Derek had kept his job, if he'd asked you to move in with him, would you be standing in my living room right now?" She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. "I didn't think so." Lana started crying then, the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that come from the bottom of the soul. "I'm sorry," she said between sobs. "I'm so sorry, Drake. I know I hurt you. I know I messed up everything. But I love you. I've always loved you." I felt something twist in my chest, some combination of pity and sadness and the ghost of old affection. "Lana, I loved you too. For 10 years, I loved you more than anything in the world. But love isn't enough when there's no trust left. We can rebuild trust. Can we? Because I'm looking at you right now, and all I can think about is that smirk on your face when you told me Derek appreciated you more than I ever did." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I was angry. I said things I didn't mean." "No, you said things you did mean. That's what made them hurt so much." I walked to the front door and opened it. "I think you should go." "Drake, please, go, Lana. Find a hotel, call a friend, figure something out. But don't come back here looking for a safety net." She stood there for a moment, looking lost and broken and very young. "What am I supposed to do?" "I don't know. But whatever it is, you're going to do it without me." She walked to the door, then turned back one more time. "I really did love you." "I know," I said. "That's what makes this so sad." After she left, I closed the door and leaned against it. Jessa appeared beside me with a glass of wine. "You okay?" "Yeah, I think I am." That was hard. It was, but it was also right. I took the wine and walked back to the living room where the movie was still paused on the screen. "You know what the strangest part is?" I said. "What?" I thought I'd feel worse about it, but mostly I just feel relieved. Jessa settled back into her chair and picked up the remote. "That's because you did the right thing. The right thing doesn't always feel good, but it always feels right." We finished the movie in comfortable silence, and when Jessa left around midnight, I found myself alone in my house for the first time since this whole mess started. It felt like peace. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal paperwork and increasingly desperate attempts by Lana to change my mind. She tried everything, showing up at my office, calling my friends, even contacting my mother in Florida to tell her version of events. My mother, bless her heart, listened politely to Lana's sob story, then called me. Drake, honey, what's this about Lana saying you threw her out for no reason? I explained the situation, including the affair, the abandonment, and the social media posts. When I finished, Mom was quiet for a long moment. Well, she said finally, I always thought that girl had more ambition than sense. Thanks, Mom. You're better off without her, sweetie. A woman who'd leave her husband for her boss isn't the kind of woman you build a life with. Meanwhile, Derek had apparently taken my advice about leaving town. According to Jessa's network, he'd moved back to Dallas, where he was reportedly working at a used car lot and living in his cousin's garage. Poetic justice, Jessa observed over our weekly Chinese food dinner. Is it? Man who sold houses for a living ends up selling cars and living in a garage. That's either poetic justice or divine comedy. My phone had been blessedly quiet for 3 days when it rang Thursday evening. Unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately. Drake, it's me. Hello, Lana. I got a job. Congratulations. It's not much. Receptionist at a dental office. But it's something. I waited for her to get to the point. I was thinking maybe we could have dinner. Talk about things. What things? Us. Our future. I know you're angry, but Lana, we don't have a future. We have a past, and we have divorce papers that are going to be finalized next week. You don't mean that? I absolutely mean that. But I love you. You love the idea of me. You love having someone to fall back on when your other plans don't work out. That's not the same thing. She started crying again, but this time it felt calculated, performed. You're being cruel. No, I'm being honest. There's a difference. I hung up and immediately called Mike Stevens. Mike, how solid is our case? Solid as concrete. She abandoned the marriage, committed adultery, and documented both on social media. Unless she's got photos of you with another woman, this is about as straightforward as divorce gets. Good, because I have a feeling she's not going to go quietly. I was right. Friday morning, I woke up to find my front yard decorated with toilet paper and what appeared to be raw eggs. A note was tucked under my windshield wiper. This is what you get for ruining lives. I called the police, who took a report and suggested I install security cameras. I called a security company, who had a crew out that afternoon installing cameras and motion sensors. Saturday brought a new escalation. I was grocery shopping when I ran into Tom Bradley, a neighbor from 3 streets over. Hey, Drake, sorry to hear about the trouble with Lana. Thanks, Tom. These things happen. Yeah, but the stuff she's been saying... He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. What stuff? Maybe you should talk to her yourself. That evening, Jessa called with intel from the neighborhood network. Lana's been making the rounds, she said without preamble, telling anyone who'll listen that you're having a breakdown and making up stories about her. Stories? According to her version, she went to New Orleans for a work conference, you got paranoid and jealous, and now you're spreading lies to destroy her reputation. I felt my jaw clench. Work conference. With Derek as her conference buddy, apparently. What are people saying? Most people aren't buying it. Mrs. Henderson saw her leave with Derek, remember? And the Johnsons saw you changing the locks. Hard to spin that as paranoid delusion. But some people are buying it? Some. The ones who don't know you very well. Sunday morning brought the next phase of Lana's campaign. I was washing my car in the driveway when she pulled up in a rental car with 2 women I didn't recognize. She got out of the car like she was stepping onto a red carpet, all confidence and righteous indignation. Drake, we need to talk. No, we don't. These are my friends from work. They wanted to meet the man who's been spreading lies about me. The 2 women looked uncomfortable, like they were beginning to realize they'd been recruited for something they didn't fully understand. Ladies, I said, nodding politely, I'm Drake Torrin. I assume Lana told you her version of recent events? She said you've been harassing her, one of them said uncertainly. Did she mention the 47 emails between her and her boss? Or the social media posts announcing she was leaving me for him? The women looked at Lana, who had gone pale. That's not... You're twisting things. I pulled out my phone and showed them the Facebook post from New Orleans. Finally, with someone who knows my worth. Her, New Orleans, a new beginnings. Oh, living my best life. The women read it, then looked at Lana again. You said you went for a work conference, one of them said. I did. Derek was there too, but... Derek's your boss, right? The other woman asked. He was, but... Lana, the first woman said. I think we should go. They left Lana standing in my driveway, her carefully constructed narrative crumbling around her feet. You're proud of yourself, aren't you? She said after her friends drove away. No, Lana. I'm tired. I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of the drama. And I'm tired of you trying to rewrite history. I never lied to you. You've been lying to me for months. Every time you said you were working late, every time you said Derek was just a friend, every time you said you loved me while you were planning to leave me. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. I want half the house, she said finally. You abandoned the marriage. You're not getting half of anything. We'll see what the judge says. Yes, we will. She drove away, and I finished washing my car in peace. Monday morning brought a call from Mike Stevens. Drake, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Lana's hired a new lawyer, Richard Castellanos. He's good, and he's expensive. How expensive? The kind of expensive that suggests someone's funding her legal fees. I thought about that for a moment. Derek? That would be my guess. The question is, where's he getting the money if he's unemployed and under investigation? Good question. What's our next move? That we stick to the facts. We have evidence, we have witnesses, and we have her own social media posts. Let them spend their money on fancy lawyers. Truth is truth. That afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. Mr. Torrin, this is Detective Sarah Martinez with Houston PD. I understand you filed a vandalism report last week? That's right. We've had some developments. Can you come down to the station? An hour later, I was sitting in an interview room with Detective Martinez, a woman in her 40s with the kind of direct gaze that suggested she'd heard every lie in the book. Mr. Torrin, we reviewed the security footage from your neighbor's camera. The vandalism to your property was committed by your estranged wife and an unidentified male. Derek Hanley, probably. That's what we figured. The question is, do you want to press charges? I thought about it. Pressing charges would escalate things, but it would also send a clear message that I wasn't going to be intimidated. Yes, I said. I want to press charges. Both of them? Both of them. Detective Martinez nodded and made a note in her file. We'll issue warrants for vandalism and criminal mischief. Fair warning, this might make your divorce proceedings more complicated. Detective, my wife left me for her boss, posted it on social media, and is now trying to rewrite history to make me the villain. I don't think it can get much more complicated. She smiled for the first time since I'd met her. You'd be surprised what people can complicate when they put their minds to it. That evening, Jessa came over with wine and updates from the Neighborhood Intelligence Network. Lana's been served with the vandalism warrant, she said, settling into her usual chair. Apparently, she had a complete meltdown in the dental office where she works. Started screaming about how you're trying to destroy her life. And they fired her. Turns out dental offices don't like employees who scream at police officers. I poured myself a glass of wine and considered this development. So she's unemployed again. Unemployed, facing criminal charges, and running out of friends to stay with. What about Derek? Also served with a warrant. According to my sources, he's back in town and staying at that cheap motel on Highway 6. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I was starting to recognize the pattern. Drake, you have to drop the charges. Lana's voice, but different now. Desperate in a way I'd never heard before. No, I don't. I'll lose everything. You already lost everything. You just didn't realize it yet. Please, I'm begging you. Lana, you vandalized my property. You brought Derek to my house in the middle of the night to throw eggs and toilet paper around like a couple of teenagers. What did you think was going to happen? I was angry. So was I. But I didn't commit crimes. I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever papers you want, give you whatever you want in the divorce. Just drop the charges. I looked at Jessa, who was listening with the expression of someone watching a particularly dramatic soap opera. The charges stand, I said, and the divorce proceeds as planned. You're destroying me. No, Lana, you destroyed yourself. I'm just not cleaning up the mess anymore. I hung up and turned to Jessa. Think she'll try something else? Probably, but she's running out of options and allies. Derek's got his own legal problems. Her friends are figuring out she's been lying, and now she's unemployed again. So what's next? Jessa smiled and raised her wine glass. Next, we watch her learn that actions have consequences. We clinked glasses, and I realized that for the first time in months, I was genuinely looking forward to tomorrow. The call came on a Wednesday morning, 2 days before our scheduled court date. I was reviewing files for a client when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Drake? The voice was barely a whisper, but I knew it immediately. Hello, Lana. I'm in New Orleans. Can you come down here, please? I leaned back in my office chair and stared at the ceiling. Why would I do that? Because I have something that belongs to you. Something important. What could you possibly have that belongs to me? The truth, about Derek, about the money, about everything, but I can't tell you over the phone. I almost hung up. Almost. But something in her voice stopped me. Not desperation this time, but something else. Fear, maybe. Lana, if this is another attempt to... It's not. I swear it's not. Drake, I'm in trouble. Real trouble. And you're the only person I can trust. The irony of that statement wasn't lost on me. The woman who'd betrayed me was now asking me to trust her. What kind of trouble? The kind that could get me hurt, or worse. I was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then I made a decision that would either be the smartest thing I'd ever done or the stupidest. Where are you? Hotel Monteleone, room 847. I'll be there tonight. I hung up and immediately called Jessa. You're going to think I've lost my mind, I said. Probably. What are you planning to do? I told her about Lana's call, the fear in her voice, the cryptic references to Derek and money and trouble. Drake, this sounds like a trap. Maybe, but what if it's not? What if it is? Then I'll deal with it. But Jessa, what if she really is in trouble? What if Derek's involved in something bigger than just skimming commissions? Jessa was quiet for a moment. You're going to go anyway, aren't you? Yeah, I think I am. Then I'm coming with you. Jessa? Don't Jessa me. You think I'm letting you walk into whatever this is alone? We're family, Drake. Stupid, dysfunctional family, but family. 4 hours later, we were in my car heading south on I-10 with a cooler full of sandwiches and a plan that was probably going to get us both in trouble. So, what's the play here? Jessa asked as we crossed into Louisiana. Honestly, I have no idea, but I figure we go in, hear what she has to say, and get out. And if it's a trap? I patted the pocket where I'd put my phone, set to record everything. Then we document it and add it to the evidence file. We reached New Orleans just as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that would have been romantic under different circumstances. The Hotel Monteleone was exactly the kind of place Lana would choose, elegant, expensive, and designed to impress. Room 847, I told the elevator operator. The hallway was quiet, carpeted in deep red and lined with antique furniture that probably cost more than my car. I found the room and knocked softly. Drake? Lana's voice through the door. It's me. The door opened, and I barely recognized the woman standing there. Lana looked like she'd aged 5 years in the past month. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes wrinkled, and her eyes had the hollow look of someone who hadn't slept in days. Thank God you came, she said, then noticed Jessa behind me. Why is she here? Because I asked her to come. Can we come in? Lana hesitated, then stepped aside. The room was a mess. Clothes scattered everywhere, empty room service trays on every surface, and the smell of stale cigarettes despite the no-smoking signs. Lana, what's going on? I asked. She walked to the window and stared out at the French Quarter below. Derek's not who I thought he was. None of us are who you thought we were. Be more specific. She turned back to face us, and I could see she'd been crying. The money he was spending on me, on the trips, on everything, it wasn't his. Whose was it? His clients'. He was taking money from escrow accounts, using it for personal expenses, then covering it up by manipulating the closing dates. Jessa whistled low. That's not just skimming. That's embezzlement. It gets worse, Lana continued. Some of the money belonged to people who don't handle theft well. What kind of people? The kind who sent 2 men to my hotel room yesterday looking for Derek. I felt a chill run down my spine. What did you tell them? That I didn't know where he was. Which is true. He disappeared 3 days ago, and he took everything with him. My jewelry, my credit cards, even my car keys. So you're stranded here. I'm worse than stranded. They think I was part of it. They think I helped him steal their money. I looked around the room again, noticing details I'd missed before. The chain lock was broken. One of the lamps was askew, like someone had searched the room roughly. Lana, why did you call me? Because you're the only person I know who's smart enough to figure out how to fix this. I can't fix this. This is way beyond anything I can help with. But you have to try. Please, Drake. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve your help, but I don't have anyone else. I was about to respond when there was a knock at the door. Not the polite knock of hotel staff, but the kind of knock that suggests the person on the other side doesn't plan to wait for an invitation. Lana Torrin? A man's voice, heavily accented. Lana went white. That's them. Is there another way out of here? I whispered. She shook her head. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Miss Torrin, we know you're in there. We just want to talk. I looked at Jessa, who was already moving toward the bathroom window. Fire escape, she whispered. Lana, I said quietly, we're leaving, now. I can't. They'll find me. Not if you're not here. The knocking stopped, and we heard the sound of a key card being inserted into the lock. Move, I said. We made it to the bathroom just as the door to the room opened. I could hear voices, at least 2 men, maybe 3. She was here recently. Bed still warm? Jessa had the bathroom window open and was already climbing onto the fire escape. I helped Lana through, then followed, closing the window behind us as quietly as possible. The fire escape was old and rusty, and it creaked ominously under our weight. We made it down 2 flights before I heard the bathroom window open above us. There, one of the voices called out. Go, 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 I said. We clattered down the remaining flights, the sound echoing off the buildings around us. Behind us, I could hear footsteps on the metal stairs. We reached the alley and ran toward the street, emerging onto Royal Street in the heart of the French Quarter. The area was crowded with tourists, which was both good and bad. Good because we could blend in, bad because we might be putting innocent people at risk. This way, Jessa said, grabbing Lana's arm and pulling her toward a crowded restaurant. We pushed through the crowd, trying to look casual while moving as quickly as possible. I glanced back and saw 2 men in dark suits scanning the crowd. In here, I said, pulling them into a souvenir shop packed with tourists buying t-shirts and plastic beads. We made our way to the back of the store, where a narrow staircase led to a second floor. The shop owner, an elderly woman with kind eyes, noticed our distress. Y'all okay? Just trying to avoid some people, I said. She nodded knowingly. Happens more than you'd think in this neighborhood. Y'all can use the back exit if you need to. Thank you. She led us through a storage room to a door that opened onto a different alley. This'll take you to Chartres Street. Be careful now. We thanked her and slipped out into the alley. It was darker here, quieter, and I could hear jazz music drifting from one of the clubs on Bourbon Street. Now what? Lana asked. Now we get you somewhere safe and figure out how to get you out of this mess. There is no out. Don't you understand? Derek stole money from dangerous people and they think I was part of it. Then we prove you weren't. How? I thought about it for a moment. By finding Derek and making him tell the truth. He could be anywhere by now. Could be, but I have a feeling he's not as far away as you think. We made our way through the quieter streets of the quarter, avoiding the main tourist areas. I was trying to think through the situation logically. Derek had stolen money, fled, and left Lana to face the consequences. But he'd also left behind evidence of his crimes, and that evidence might be the key to clearing Lana's name. Lana, when Derek disappeared, did he take everything? Everything valuable. What about paperwork? Files? His laptop? He took his laptop, but there might be some files back at his apartment. In Houston? No, here. He kept a place here for when he had clients in Louisiana. I stopped walking. You know where it is? Of course. Then that's where we're going. Derek's New Orleans apartment was in a converted warehouse in the Marigny, the kind of trendy neighborhood where young professionals went to feel bohemian. We took a taxi there, keeping our heads down and watching for anyone who might be following us. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had probably been a factory once. Lana still had a key, which she used to let us in. The place was a mess. Derek had clearly left in a hurry, leaving behind clothes, furniture, and most importantly, a filing cabinet that he hadn't bothered to empty. Jackpot, Jessa said, pulling out folders full of financial documents. I started going through the files while Jessa and Lana kept watch. What I found was worse than I'd expected. Derek hadn't just been skimming money, he'd been running a sophisticated fraud scheme using fake clients and forged documents to steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from escrow accounts. Lana, look at this, I said, holding up a bank statement. This account is in your name. She looked at the statement and went pale. I never opened that account. But your signature is on the paperwork? That's not my signature. I looked closer. She was right. It was close, but not perfect. Derek had been forging her signature to open accounts and move money. This is good, I said. How is this good? Because it proves you weren't part of it. He was using your identity without your knowledge. I took photos of everything with my phone, making sure to capture the forged signatures and the account numbers. This was evidence that could clear Lana's name and put Derek in prison for a very long time. We need to get this to the police, I said. What about the men who are looking for me? What about them? Once we prove Derek was working alone, they'll have no reason to bother you. We were gathering up the documents when we heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Heavy footsteps, moving with purpose. Back exit? I whispered. Lana shook her head. Fire escape, but it's outside the bedroom window. We moved quickly toward the bedroom, but we were too late. The front door opened and Derek walked in, followed by the 2 men we'd seen at the hotel. Well, well, Derek said, his voice carrying that familiar smooth confidence. Look what we have here. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing the same clothes he'd probably been wearing for days. But he was smiling, and that smile was scarier than any threat. Hello, Lana, Drake. Thanks for gathering up my files for me. Derek, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, we know what you've been doing. Do you? And what exactly is that? Embezzling money from escrow accounts, using Lana's identity to open fake accounts, running a fraud scheme that's probably worth more money than you'll ever be able to pay back. Derek's smile widened. You always were too smart for your own good, Drake. Smart enough to take pictures of everything before you got here. The smile faltered. What pictures? I held up my phone. Bank statements, forged signatures, account numbers, everything we need to prove Lana was never involved in your scheme. One of the men stepped forward. He was big, probably 6'4", with the kind of build that suggested he spent a lot of time in the gym. Mr. Hanley, you said she was your partner. She was. She is. No, I said, she wasn't. Look at the signatures. They're forgeries. Derek was using her identity without her knowledge. I showed them the photos on my phone. The big man looked at them carefully, then looked at Derek. These signatures don't match. Of course they don't match, Derek said quickly. She was trying to hide her involvement. She used different signatures on purpose. That's ridiculous, Lana said. Why would I forge my own signature? The second man, smaller but somehow more dangerous looking, stepped closer to Derek. Mr. Hanley, you told us this woman was your business partner. You told us she helped you take our money. She did. Then why are all these accounts opened with forged signatures? Derek was sweating now, his smooth confidence finally cracking. Look, there might have been some irregularities in the paperwork, but irregularities? The smaller man's voice was very quiet, very calm. Mr. Hanley, you stole $200,000 from our organization. You told us your girlfriend was your accomplice. Now we find out you were lying about that too. I wasn't lying. You were lying about everything. The big man grabbed Derek by the shirt and lifted him off his feet. Where's our money? I don't have it anymore. I had expenses, investments that didn't work out. You spent it. Not all of it. Some of it. But I can get it back. Give me time. We gave you time. We gave you 3 weeks. Now we want our money. I looked at Jessa and Lana, then made a decision that was either very brave or very stupid. Gentlemen, if I might make a suggestion. Both men looked at me. You want your money back, right? Obviously. Derek spent it, but he also committed federal crimes doing it. Bank fraud, identity theft, money laundering. The FBI is going to want to talk to him. So? So cooperate with them. Help them build their case. In exchange, they might be able to help you recover some of your money through asset forfeiture. The smaller man considered this. You think the FBI would be interested in our business arrangement with Mr. Hanley? I think the FBI would be very interested in a fraud scheme worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially if you can provide evidence of Derek's other crimes. Derek was struggling in the big man's grip. You can't trust him. He's just trying to save his ex-wife. Actually, I said, I'm trying to save everyone. You've created a mess that's going to hurt a lot of people if it's not handled properly. The smaller man nodded slowly. You make a good point. Mr. Hanley has been untruthful with us. Very untruthful. And cooperation with law enforcement might be beneficial. It might. He gestured to his partner, who released Derek. Derek stumbled backward, gasping. Mr. Hanley, you're going to come with us. We're going to have a long conversation about your business practices. Wait, Derek said. What about them? He pointed at us. What about them? They're witnesses. They have evidence. They're going to help us recover our money. Derek's face went through several emotions: anger, fear, desperation, and finally resignation. This isn't over, he said to me. Yes, it is. The two men escorted Derek out of the apartment, leaving the three of us alone with the scattered files and the weight of what had just happened. Is it really over? Lana asked. I looked at the evidence we'd gathered, thought about the photos on my phone and the conversation we just had. For you? Yeah, I think it is. Derek's going to prison, and everyone knows you weren't involved. What about us? I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not the woman who'd betrayed me, but the frightened, broken person she'd become. There is no us, Lana. There can't be. Too much has happened. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know. I had to ask. I know. We called the FBI from Derek's apartment, using the landline because I didn't trust our cell phones not to be monitored. Within an hour, the place was swarming with federal agents, and we were giving statements about everything we'd witnessed. Special Agent Maria Santos was the lead investigator, a woman in her 40s with the kind of competent demeanor that made you feel like everything was going to be okay. Mr. Torrin, Mrs. Torrin, you've been very helpful. This evidence is going to make our case much stronger. What happens now? Lana asked. Now we build a case against Mr. Hanley. Based on what you've shown us, he's looking at serious federal time. And Lana. Mrs. Torrin appears to be a victim, not a perpetrator. The forged signatures make that clear. Agent Santos handed us each a business card. You'll need to testify when this goes to trial, but for now, you're free to go. We left the apartment building as the sun was rising over New Orleans, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The French Quarter was quiet at this hour, peaceful in a way that seemed impossible after everything that had happened. So what now? Jessa asked. Now we go home, I said. All of us? I looked at Lana, who was standing apart from us, looking lost and alone. Lana, do you have somewhere to go? I'll figure something out. You can stay with me, Jessa said quietly, just until you get back on your feet. Lana looked surprised. Why would you do that? Because you're my sister, and because everyone deserves a second chance. I felt something loosen in my chest, some knot of anger and resentment that I'd been carrying for months. Lana, I said. She looked at me. I forgive you. She started crying again, but these tears were different. Cleaner, somehow. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just do better. Be better. I will. I promise I will. We drove back to Houston in relative silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. When we reached the city, I dropped Lana off at Jessa's house, watching as my sister-in-law helped my ex-wife carry her few remaining possessions inside. You sure about this? I asked Jessa. No, but I'm doing it anyway. I drove home to my empty house, where I sat on my porch and watched the sun set over the neighborhood I'd lived in for 10 years. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike Stevens. Heard about New Orleans. Case dismissed? I typed back, case dismissed. It's over. And for the first time in months, I believed it really was. The last laugh, as it turned out, wasn't mine or Lana's or Derek's. It belonged to justice, served not in a courtroom but in a converted warehouse in New Orleans, witnessed by criminals and federal agents and 3 people who'd learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply letting the truth come to light. I finished my beer and went inside, where I had a life to rebuild and a future to figure out. But for the first time since this whole mess started, that future felt like something worth looking forward to.